Okay, Stephen. So, how many years have you been making it pay?
12, 13 maybe. But you change your model in that time. You can't, if you keep doing the same thing, you won't make it pay. Because having an edge, and that edge varies, but having an edge, you need to be one step ahead, don't you?
And what would you say your edge is at the moment?
Well, my edge for a few years is actually, look, each way terms are completely outdated in this country. Totally and utterly outdated. Now, if I was to put it up on races now and say, back this 3-to-1 shot each way, A, people wouldn't understand it, and B, they'd get their account shut very quickly. I get a license to do it to an extent on course, so I can play dirty each way races. I mean, it's not an edge as such, but mathematically, it makes a hell of a lot of sense to do. I mean, there's a lot of on-course bookmakers who will take each way bets in full runner races. I remember there was a 3-runner race once at Bangor, and they were betting each way, and it was total madness. And yeah, I mean, that works for me.
You say dirty each way. Dirty for who? I mean, the bookmakers don't say to you, look, don't bet into this heritage handicap with 25 runners because it's filthy for you. So
yeah, but dirty each way. I mean, typically, if you've got a maiden, I don't like playing maidens as much on the flat with it because I remember I can't remember where I was. I was at Thirska somewhere, and one gets withdrawn, and then you're down to 2 places, and it just buggers you up. But dirty each way, a perfect dirty each way race is a 9-runner novice hurdle at Kelso, where the second favourite is 3-to-1. You think it's got half a chance of winning, but in reality, it's place odds at 3-to-1 are 0.6-to-1, aren't they? When in reality, it's probably 1-to-10 for a place, and that's how you make it pay. Like I say, I've got to be careful the part of an onus on this is from me, and I've got to think of the people we're advising to bet with. You can't tell people to back those horses because you and I both know that their account would be absolutely kibosh within a week. Bookies hate them. They're generally a good betting medium.
Sounds to me like you've got a little bit of sympathy with the bookmakers for having to lay bets like that. We'll come to probably why in a bit. I mean, can you pinpoint a time, event, meeting, or a bit of advice that transformed you from a losing punter to a winning punter? So you must have been doing your money for a while.
No, but I never lost that much. I mean, I've had some bloody bad days. I mean, I remember, where would I be? I'd be at college, I get on the train, go to Carlisle, and you think it's easy in those days. John Joe has an odds-on favourite in the first. And I lumped on it with Joe Douglas. I basically did all my money. I did about 200 quid on it, and it learnt me a lot. And I walked all the way back to the station because I didn't even have enough money for a taxi. And those sort of things, it might have been 200 quid then, but I think it's probably saved me that many times over the years.
So that's old school, isn't it? Because you take that as a learning curve.
Yeah.
Somebody else these days might go home and complain to the Gambling Commission that they didn't ask if you could afford to lose that £200.
You go on about sympathy for bookmakers, right? I agree. The problem, this is a societal problem more than anything. You have a car crash. The first thing somebody bloody says to you is your neck hurting. So we've got this sort of blame culture in society. It's not fair at all, is it?
No.
So I have an element of sympathy with bookmakers with that, but I have to say that what the Gambling Commission have done, bookmakers seem to use it as a conduit to stopping paying out, and that isn't fair either.
We're talking off-course bookmakers here, though.
We're talking off-course. Look, on-course bookmakers will pay you out. That's part of the appeal. But off-course, some off-course bookmakers, you read some of the things they do, and you just think, look, just be a gentleman and bloody pay.
Exactly. Yeah. So we see you doing all your betting on course. But do you do your own betting on course, or do you get involved off course?
Well, I do a lot I've always bet on course, but I do a lot more of it now on course, and there's a few reasons. I've gone on to the place angle with you. Look, invariably tonight, if there's a horse at 2-1, if it's 305 on the machine, I'll get 2-1 here. I won't have a load of shit trying to A, get it on, ringing people up to get it on, because I can't really get a bet on in my own name, and if I do, I can't get more than a pony on, generally. You get paid in cash, and there's no repercussion of I ring someone up, and I don't want to put them in this position. And let's say I want 200 quid at 2-1, so they pay 600, and then you try and withdraw it, and they look for 3 months' bank statements, and then they're done, and I'm done, and our friendship probably goes. So I think it's just easier for me to bet on course. Sometimes I'll use the exchanges. If I go to a course, I'll not name it, and I think they're taking the piss. If they're going 2-3 a runner, I can't make that pay. I can't make bookies pay you put it on the tracker because, okay, Betfair is illiquid, but it's not a bad guide. So where I can, I'll bet on course. It's a hell of a lot easier, and it avoids things. If you think about it, if I'm going for a mortgage or whatever, or some sort of financial transaction, I say, oh, he's addicted to gambling, because of course many people do not understand it, and they see Betfair all over the account. I mean, I've got a separate account for gambling, but nevertheless, it just creates challenges.
So how often do you go racing a year?
160 probably.
And is that since you were doing the races now, or this races now on top of it?
I've always gone racing, but certainly for the last 10 years, probably before COVID, it was about 100, and after COVID, it's about 160.
Okay, so with all the expenses,
yes,
there's a fair bit travelling and getting in and all the rest of it. Have you sort of do you have to up your stakes sometimes beyond those you previously felt comfortable with to cover the X's?
Well, I'm quite methodical, and you've got to look at inflation. So if you look at inflation over the past few years and why that's occurred, I've generally increased them with that. The X's aren't that bad. I mean, if you think about it, sometimes I'm lucky enough to get an owner's badge or something, so that pays for my food. I don't mind. What will it cost me to get to? If I go to Ascot, I don't know. It'll cost me 60 quid in fuel. The way I sort of look at it is, look, sometime probably 10 years ago, you go out get pissed on a Saturday night. That'd cost you 60 quid, wouldn't it? So I just sort of move it around that.
Do you, when you keep a record of all your bets, you keep a record of your X's for the day as well?
Well, I just look at the bloody statement when it comes through, or obviously pay cash. Then they don't know I'm doing all those miles. Look, I know how many miles I do, and I know how much it'll cost me a mile. So it's about 40,000 a year.
Okay, now you've got a big following, and you move the market. Do you feel any extra pressure before putting up your selections?
Yes, because it's not my money, is it? So I will never put a horse up. I don't know if other people do this. I will never put a horse up I'm not going to back myself. I probably look a little bit more than I would have done. I don't put all the horses up I'm backing. I think that's the first thing, because, like I've just said, things can change during the day. But I will always back them, and it's other people's money, and if they're choosing to follow me, I think I owe them something in return.
But it's all free, isn't it?
It is. There are other ways we can make it pay, but it is. Yes.
Yeah. So it takes a bit of the pressure off that you don't. I mean, the internet, Twitter, X especially, is full of absolute melts. So have you had any negative feedback?
Yeah, I got called a dick washing helmet by someone. That was fun.
It's imaginative, anyway.
Yeah, dick washing helmet. I hadn't heard that one. So we talked about that 10-day losing run, and I have people saying, "Oh, he's tipped another loser." And look, it does get to you, but I'm not one of these punters. A lot of punters will just, well, I think a lot of the very good punters just sit there and maybe have one better fortnight or something. I mean, that would just drive me completely insane. If there's an edge on the race, I want to play it, because I don't think there's much margin in horse race betting. So I think it's sort of the Aldi principle, the Amazon principle, whatever you want to call it, of the more you turn over, and if you think you can make it pay, you're going to make more money. So I do feel an element of pressure, but it's up to people if they want to back them or not.
Has it affected the way you approach selecting your bets?
Not the ones I'm going to put up. I mean, I try and not put horses up under 2-1. The reason for that is I generally don't back them, but I can afford to be wrong a hell of a lot more if I'm putting bigger priced horses up. If I'm putting a horse up at 7-8-1, do you know what? I'm going to be wrong most of the time, and that's fine.
And has it become harder for you? I suppose it's a similar question, really, but
no, you just adapt. I think, strangely, the more racing you do, the happier I am. I mean, I was at Musselburgh on Easter Saturday, and this thing of Charlie Fallows comes into the paddock. It looked huge. It had 2 paddock handlers. It was all over the place. And my dad was with me. I said, "This has no bloody chance." I mean, it was 8-11, and you sort of pick things up by going racing, and that helps.
So are you quite knowledgeable of, looking in the paddock, or was that just an obvious one? Would you go to the paddock before betting your personal bets?
I wouldn't for a handicap, but I would for a maiden. I think you can learn a hell of a lot, with younger horses. I'm not a paddock judge. I'm no Ken Pitterson or Gerald Delamere, but it's just another component in my armoury. If a horse hasn't run for a while, I want to see how it looks. There was one running at Bangor last week. It was a handicap. It hadn't run for 170 days, and it had a belly on it. And I just thought, no. I don't keep paddock notes per se. I know people who do, but you just want to see they look all right, and they're not, especially in high summer, if they're sweating up, and don't like that at all.
Okay, now your ex account is SD Racing Services.
Yes.
So, I mean, was there a previous life where you were offering services to somebody, or was that just something you came up with? I
still offer services. I do like punters. I like punters as a breed. I like racegoers as a breed. I represent the members at Haydock Park, so that was one of the services, and now we're doing tipping, and I did write a piece once for the Racing Post saying what a complete and utter bilge premierisation was, and of course it is. But yeah, it's all things racing.